Hi everyone, John Capobianco here, and I'm not sure if you've ever had an idea, like a wacky idea, an outrageous idea, um, something almost outlandish, really. But in this world of AI, and this world of vibe coding, and this world of model context protocol, and now a Gemini CLI and VS Code and other tools, these radical ideas can become reality. So, what I'm going to show you is something that I'm going to call Git Packet Copilot. It's almost a coworker. Let's scratch that. Let's start again. Git Packet Coworker. Now, I didn't name my GitHub repo that, but I probably will or should. But, okay. Git Packet Coworker. What does this mean? It means that in a folder that's a Git folder, so I'm going to go to GitHub, make a repo, clone it locally. In that folder, I can drop a packet capture, PCAP file in that folder, perform the necessary Git operations, commit it with a message, and push it to the remote GitHub repo. And the GitHub Actions and the Gemini-CLI and the Selector Packet Copilot Model Context Protocol, the remote MCP, the streaming MCP, will generate a report in my GitHub repo about that packet in like a minute. Yeah, I'm not writing any code to do this. I'm not doing RAG, like it is doing RAG, the Packet Copilot behind the scenes, but I'm not doing it. I haven't written any code for this, any Python. I haven't launched Wireshark. I haven't used T-Shark at the command line. It truly is frictionless. In my Git repo, I put the PCAP in, I push it to the remote, and then in a minute I get a report that I can pull back. I repeat this because it really is remarkable. So let's take a look at this. We'll come back to that screen. So the first thing that we're going to focus on is Gemini CLI. I've shown you how to install this locally. And what this looks like is, if I change into my Packet Analysis folder and launch Gemini, we have the Gemini CLI. And from here, I have the Packet Copilot MCP. This is a TUI, a terminal interface, and I can interact with this through natural language and packet captures. We'll come back to this. The next thing is, meet your new AI coding teammate, Gemini CLI GitHub Actions. Right, so Gemini CLI GitHub Actions, no cost, powerful AI coding teammate for your repo. And I've covered some of this. The two of the three built-in actions they give you, automated triaging, and an @Gemini CLI in the comments, an automated coworker in my comments. Come back to where you can find more about that. Now, there is Run Gemini CLI, which is inside of the workflow. Pretty neat, right? So, this is where I started. And again, the Packet Copilot is still available from Selector in the GUI, but now we have MCP access. And we can see that it's listening here. Again, the browser throws a healthy error, I will call it, that it's up and running, but the browser doesn't accept the type of input that it needs. Where can you catch up on all that? I would start here. Gemini CLI, the CLI for the age of AI, turning Gemini CLI into a digital engineer, network engineer coworker. The Packet Copilot MCP had a chat with PCAPs in the age of AI, and then the GitHub Actions. These sort of a handful of videos, might take you 45 minutes, an hour to get through them, will bring you up to speed. Okay, so I'm in my Git repo, Git Packet Copilot. And I'm going to change the name of that, I think, but anyway. And you see a capture file and a reports file. And a report about that capture file. All I did was drop in this capture file, and that report was created automatically through this workflow. So we're going to look at the single packet capture, which is the name of my commit. We detect the packet in 6 seconds, and then we analyze the packet. Now, this is really remarkable stuff. We're setting up, a Linux environment, and we're checking out the repo and bringing the repo in to that environment. We are preparing the Packet Copilot, right? So setting up the settings JSON file. So the Gemini-CLI, a little further down, will be able to analyze the PCAP, right? So here I'm using the Gemini-CLI in -P mode, one-shot mode, with this prompt and the base64 information of the PCAP file that I transformed up here. None of this is coded. I'll show you how this is done. Then it generates the Markdown file, commits and pushes the report into the main, and cleans up and checks out and finishes up the job. Right, all of this is successful, and it took a total of 2 minutes and 45 seconds. 2 minutes and 45 seconds to get this report about that packet. Executive summary, key findings, conversation and flow, performance and timing, application and protocol insights, security observations, recommendations, appendix. Pretty neat, right? Everything you'd want to know about this PCAP. Didn't write a lick of Python. Didn't use Wireshark, didn't use T-Shark, none of that stuff at all. All right, so really, how is this done? Now check this out, just to prove it. All I did was drop this capture file in to this folder, and I'm going to pull down the report, and here's the report that I got back. Pretty neat, right? Does it work as a mark map? Probably. Yeah, so just welcome to the age of artificial intelligence, right? And I even get a mark map of it. Pretty neat, right? Isn't this crazy? Okay, so now the other thing I want to show you is these are the folders. I have my issue triaging for issues on this repo. I have the Gemini-CLI, and I have the Packet Copilot, which I wrote to do this work. Now, can I collapse all this stuff because it's YAML? I think I can. Give me 1 second. Yeah, this is neat. Okay, so there's some setup stuff here. We have our analyzed PCAPs. We set up our Git user. We prepare our settings to extend Gemini with a JSON file with the Packet Copilot MCP. We turn it into base64. We analyze it with the Copilot. We generate the Markdown, and we commit and push the report and wrap things up. Now, what's neat is there's this GitHub Actions extension for VS Code. Let me crank up the zoom. I should have done that earlier. So in my current branch, I have this packet analyzer, detect PCAPs. Here's all the steps, and the analyze PCAPs, all those steps we just went over. And we have our workflows here. Pretty neat, right? And if I view step logs, it'll jump me into that log. Cool, cool, cool. So, do you want to see this live? Okay, so let me do this live for everyone. What we're going to do is go to Code here, and we're going to go to Actions here. I'm going to keep this for logs. But let's go ahead and go into the branch, and we're going to keep reports, and we're going to keep capture. Let me drop a new capture into this folder. DHCP. So we're going to take a DHCP PCAP and drop it into that folder. Right now, let's go back to VS Code. We get rid of the zone identifier. So we have a PCAP file. We're going to commit this and say DHCP Dora capture. Commit sync. Okay, so here we should have a new PCAP file, and now here we should have a new workflow. There's the DORA DHCP capture. We're going to detect the PCAP pretty quickly, and we don't need to look at all these logs, but there are logs here of the checkout, finding the PCAP, post-checkout, course job completion, and we have the, right? So now under Analyze PCAP, we've got a few pre-steps here. Checkout, set up the get user, prepare the JSON, we can check the heartbeat, prepare the base 64, and now a couple of things I want to mention here. There will likely be some SSE errors here. And remember, it takes about 2 minutes, so I need you to be patient with me. There may be some streaming errors here. I just have learned that they're warnings, or they don't matter, or just ignore them, because it will move along and do the thing. Let's say this here. I'm going to talk to my friends at Google and see if they can understand what's going on here. It's an HTTPS remote MCP over HTTP URL. I haven't specified SSE. However, just ignore it. Honestly, just move along. So like, I don't know, maybe do an Excalidraw for everybody here on what's happening. Let me reset my canvas. So, right, I have VS Code, and I have a PCAP. This is a Get folder with those workflows. Drop in the PCAP, git commit with a message, and push it upstream, get push. Right? This pushes it to GitHub. And what's neat about GitHub is that it has the actions. Now the actions triggers one of these workflows, which spawns, in my estimation, an Ubuntu, or at the very least a Linux environment on the back end that installs Gemini. Actually, hang on. I tell it to create the JSON settings.json file, which has my MCP configuration, installs Gemini, launches Gemini, which does the stuff. Now in this case, the stuff, if I move it over, the stuff in this case is talking to Packet Copilot.selector.ai, again over MCP, which itself back here is doing RAG and more. And everything comes back, right? Now once we're back at GitHub, on this end of things, we're making the report.md, which then we can do a git pull back in like a minute, and we have that file, right? So that's sort of what's going on here. So yeah. So there's our report right here. Here is the report's information somewhere. Okay, so let's go find the report. So we go back to summary. We can see everything completed. This took 245, was successful. We have it pushed. This actually pushed something into main. Pretty neat, right? If we go back to code here, reports, beautiful, DHCP, and the date and time. Everything about the DORA flow in this. Pretty cool, right? All right, so let's grab the name of this file and let's find a flaw. Let's say the appendix. I am not happy with that appendix. So let's open an issue, John, right? And we're going to say issue lacking an informative appendix. Can we add a table or better documentation to the appendix, please? Create. Now check it out. Check this out. If I go into my actions here, we're going to see a new issue opening. An issue action. Now this action doesn't take all that long, but it does take a bit of time. And this is a triage issue action. And if we refresh and go into my, yeah, we should see, let me refresh this. Right, we see the triage issue running. Pretty neat, right? Pretty neat stuff. We can expand that. Now back on the issue itself, we're going to see in just a second or two here, maybe I'll leave it on this screen, tags. Now it might tag it as an enhancement or a documentation. Cool. Just as I said it. So it added a documentation tag. Okay, and we're just going to let this finish up. Let it just finish its thing here. And now it's green. Okay, so we had a successful workflow there. If we go to actions, nice and green. Now let's try something else. So me, as the owner, can say at Gemini-CLI, can you please handle this this documentation request, please? Comment. Now in a second, go back to actions here, right? We're going to see an issue, right? The Gemini-CLI instead, a different workflow here. So if I refresh this, my triage is done, right? But now I'm running the Gemini-CLI, which I can also do in the browser. Now this is going to take just a little bit longer, but we should already have a message. Oh, whoops. Okay, so I looking at that DHCP, I did not like the, you know, in my opinion, we could have a better appendix here than just this line. So what would I do? I would open up a GitHub issue, and I've done that. Now it's automatically been triaged for me as documentation and enhancement, automatically, documentation enhancement. So now let's try something at Gemini-CLI. Can you please handle this request for me? Comment. Now this will kick off a new, different workflow, the Gemini-CLI workflow. And it's in progress here. So we have Gemini-CLI. And it is going to do some pretty remarkable things, I hope. I have had some problems with some shell safety. And you're going to have to excuse the dogs for a minute. I have had some problems with some shell safety. Hopefully it does not trip the shell safety. I've tried some new shell guidelines here. Occasionally it was tripping the shell safety with, I don't know, special characters or something. Let's hope this run that doesn't happen. Now the other thing, again, if I hop back to my VS Code, to my GitHub Actions, we can see that we have this job running here. Here. And we have it running Gemini. Now hopefully this does not trip up. It looks very promising. It looks very promising. I don't see the error that I have been tripping. And we're going to take a look here. Now, give me 1 second to say hello to my wife. Where's the mute button? Okay, let's get back to it. So, some pretty informative stuff in here, by the way. We have the repository, triggering event, issue comment, issue, is this a PR, issue description. Can we handle this for me? There's the get action back to me. I've received your request and I'm working on it. Now check this out. Create a markdown table with key findings. Replace the appendix with a new table. Create a pull request. So the changes are in this branch. I don't have permission to create a pull request, but create a pull request. Okay, very close enough. I have a PR waiting for me, right? I think. So if I go into my pull requests and ignore this one for now and do a new pull request, look at this, update DHCP report. And there's my new table. So we're going to create the pull request, merge the pull request, delete the branch, head back into the code, and check this out. There is my new summary table. Pretty cool, right? So we live in a really exciting time. Things have changed almost overnight, I know. This feels and looks like an entirely alien way of doing things. I know that. But I'm very early. I'm one of the first to try this kind of stuff. And I hope to encourage you to learn, to grow, to evolve, to embrace AI in its many, many forms. In particular, Model Context Protocol, the Selector Packet Copilot MCP, the Gemini-CLI, the new actions with the Gemini-CLI, and much, much more. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for keeping an open mind. And we'll see you real soon. Thanks.